Ben is leading the 2025 guest count, definitely.
Man, look at Ben with the bodies. I love it. Body count's high.
Yeah.
Brawny man.
Hello, my friends.
Thank you for joining us for the PEBCAK Podcast, with the information security show featuring some all-around good people. It is week 26 of 2025. I'm Chris Louie, and happy birthday to America. I hope you all still have 10 fingers when we meet next week. With me, we have the Cloud God, who came back to America with a series of multi-use knife tools.
I wish that was true. I saw some knives, saw lots of watches, and yeah, hopefully, I like your glasses half full. Everyone's still got their fingers. Do you set off fireworks, Chris?
We do, and the ones that are legal here in my town, at least, are the ones they don't shoot up and they're not explosive, but they are very loud and very bright.
Like the fountain ones?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what it is in Arizona.
Yeah, I like how he's being recorded and said, I set off the ones that are legal. I'm being recorded. It's all legal. Well done.
Disclaimer. Yeah, we are one of the few cities in the surrounding area. I think it might be the only city actually in the surrounding areas where these types of fireworks are legal. So everybody comes to our town to buy them and set them off. So it's, when they say we're going to make it sound like the 4th of July, like that's a real thing. They go off all night long. Scares the dogs. Keeps the kids awake.
You don't have dogs, though.
I don't, but I hear them barking in the neighborhood.
Yeah, next door is going to go off.
Yeah.
How dare you? My
Every
dog's
year.
got PTSD from the
Every
war.
year, yeah.
Calm down, guys. Do your dogs freak out, Ben?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. My wife's like, ooh, do we buy them these little jackets to put on them? I'm like, no, they're dogs.
They'll survive.
100 years ago, you used to
Yes.
sleep outside. Now they cuddle with us on bed.
And we do not have Glenn Medina this week, but we hope to have him back next week. Our guest this week is the returning CISO in residence, Ben Coral. We've been having Ben on a lot lately, and we always appreciate his unique perspective on the stories we cover. So welcome back, Ben. Little slip there. Welcome back, Ben.
Oh, I always enjoy it. I always enjoy, seeing what perspectives or how I can get under your skin.
Getting under somebody's skin. Combined, we have decades of information security experience here, not just to educate, but to entertain. We've got 4 awesome stories for this week, so sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. This week, we're going to talk about China, a follow-up on a story we did 2 weeks ago. For our third topic, hacking as a gateway drug, and close with 4th of July talk. For our first topic, we've finally gotten to the point after 214 episodes that we have to state now that the opinions we express on the show are our opinions alone and do not reflect the opinion of our employer or anyone else. The more astute listeners out there may have noticed one of our episodes got censored, and we had to kill a story after we were strongly encouraged to do so. Now, we pride ourselves on reporting the latest in information security news with a complete unbiased filter, and we collectively decided that we would rather remove the story than change its content. With that in mind, we will be keeping this story vague on the potential victim in this next story. Salt Typhoon is one of China's hacking groups that have been targeting U.S. telecommunication companies to spy on key subscribers such as presidential campaigns, trade representatives, critics of China, reporters, and political dissidents. Now, there's one ISP, or Internet Service Provider, in particular that's believed to have been hacked, but they are vehemently denying it. We'll call them ISPX.
Wait a second. What percentage of our listeners don't know what the ISP is? Like, come on, dude.
I hope so. I hope they would know.
I would say 99%. Like, look at you catering to the 1%.
Catering to the 1%. Gotta lower that bar there.
Yeah.
Now
ISPX. Okay, going on.
Now there's a ton of smoke coming out of ISPX, which by all indications means that there's a fire, but ISPX still continues to vehemently deny that they've been breached, and they even put out a public statement saying, quote, "We have worked with law enforcement and government agencies to have closely monitored our network and have found no evidence that Salt Typhoon has impacted our enterprise network," a spokesperson told NextGov. And that makes you wonder why there's a disconnect there, because there's obvious signs they've been hacked, but this company won't say that they've been hacked. Well, it's also been reported in NextGov that incident response staff called to ISPX have been instructed by outside counsel not to look for signs of Salt Typhoon, said one of the people, declining to name the firm because this matter is sensitive and obviously they'd be fired if they were outed. So when I read about the story, I was pretty furious and I immediately sent it over to bed with a few mad face emojis and wanted to get everyone's take on this.
Yeah, so I love it. I too had those emojis, emoticons and stuff. But I will say, look at that quote that you just read. We found no evidence that Salt Typhoon has impacted our network, not infiltrated, impacted.
It was very
That's key.
cleverly
Also,
written by outside counsel.
Yeah. It's the enterprise network. What about the B2B network? What about the corporate network? What about there's some our cloud network? I feel like there's
yes, yep. And if they have differentiated what their enterprise network is versus their customer network versus any other networks that are there, so wording does matter. I'm sure that there's a little bit that is out there, but as you said, are they even looking? What are they looking for? And if we take a look at some of the TTPs for Salt Typhoon, now, Mr. Cloud God, do we need to define TTP, or do you think your listeners know what TTPs are?
I don't know what TTP is. But yeah, I think you should probably define it. If I don't know it, then we should define it.
I love it. Love it. So TTPs, tactics, techniques, and procedures. What are these threat actors doing? And if an attack group is being given a name, they've got attributes, they've got commonalities, but they've got things that they do in most cases. This is going to be some of those TTPs. In this case, TTPs for Salt Typhoon is they generally will use known vulnerabilities, common vulnerabilities to get access to your network. They're not going to burn these 0 days to get in if they don't have to. So, or they're going to use stolen credentials, things like that.
Just rely on the fact that companies don't patch. It's as easy as that.
Yes. Common things, common ways of getting in there. And so it's not going to be, something that's novel or new, but they are counting on you not doing the cyber hygiene factor. Absolutely. It's going to be their methods of exfiltration, and perhaps some of the malware that they're using on your network that you could be looking for. That a lot of times is going to be how you say this is Salt Typhoon versus, I'll just say Fuzzy Panda or, so another, Lazarus group.
Charming Kitten.
To name a real one. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, it's interesting you bring up the fact that they use the word impact. Even I didn't catch that because Salt Typhoon could have been passively eavesdropping, stealing all the chats, and it would still be true that says their network was not impacted. They didn't have service disruptions or anything, but someone could have been hoovering up all the data, and still technically they could get away with saying it wasn't impacted, maybe.
Hoovering? Like the vacuum? Sucking it up? Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah, hoovering up.
Oh. Since we're focused on words today, that threw me for a loop.
Yeah, it's that and the fact, and if you don't look for the evidence, you can say you found no evidence. And I think this happened to Ubiquity, I want to say maybe 3 years ago when Ubiquity had that big breach, and Ubiquity says, we found no evidence of hacking within our cloud network. And it just turns out they turned off logging. So there's no logs, so there's no evidence, and they can get away with saying there's no evidence that we've been breached.
Well, and that's the thing but they could also, splitting hairs, looking at words. We're looking for anomalous behavior, and we can detect anomalous behavior. But things go bump on the network all the time. We're monitoring all our networks. We're doing all of this. We're using our IDS. We're doing what we say we do, but we're not finding evidences of this particular threat actor. Are you specifically looking for it? And if you're not looking for it, you may not see it.
Can you imagine they're not looking for it, they find something else, they're like, poof, man, this is rough.
All right, no evidence of Salt Typhoon, but here's these other 4 threat actors that actually did make it in.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I guess that quote could still be true because they said there's no evidence that Salt Typhoon has impacted our network. They didn't say there's no evidence that any other threat actor didn't impact their network.
No, they didn't say their network. They said their enterprise network.
Exactly, yeah.
I will not rest until they say anything plugged into a facility that we own or colo. Then I'll be okay.
That's the wordplay.
Yeah, and that's the thing is on the dark web, all the bragging, all the things that are being said, and if one threat actor was able to infiltrate, now the other threat actors, ooh, you got in, why don't I go take a look as well? So, yeah, it's a small community, and, it can be wild. Now you got 2 or 3 threat actors that infiltrated your network, and they're poking around. What are they doing? Are they building their advanced persistent threat? Are they just making sure that they have ways to persist on your network? And then are they monitoring only? Are they exfiltrating your data? Have they stolen 4 terabytes of data? Well, that statement still holds. It's not been impacted. Oh, what just happened?
we lost Chris. That's hilarious. There he is.
Back.
All right.
I don't know what happened there. I'm wired in, so I don't know. Well, I didn't hear the end of Ben's rant there or his comments there, but I assume they were insightful and thoughtful about the situation here.
Or meaningless. We're all going to die.
Or meaningless. Yeah. All of my comments are very much like your Chrome tabs of gonna come back later, gonna take a look at it, gonna continue to dig into this, and, well, you never get to it.
Yeah, there's related to this story, there's another data center provider that is also believed to have been breached, and they're also denying it too. Not quite as bad as ISPX. I used to have ISPX as a service, and I hated them, so I'm not surprised that they're trying to spin this in such a way to show that they weren't hacked. But the data center company I have a bit more respect for, but they also seem to be denying that they've been breached as well by Salt Typhoon.
Well, it just makes sense. I mean, if I want to gather information on the things that Brian is doing, because he's a big big name. I mean, he is the cloud god after all. If I want to know what he's doing, I've got to get in the path in order to do it. So getting access to the data centers where his data may be stored, or getting access to his ISP and being able to put a tap there on everything that's coming from him. I mean, for a attacker perspective, these are likely targets.
Like Dan, the guy watched lots of Netflix. I mean, everything's encrypted. At best, you're going to see DNS. That's about it.
Yeah.
But at least know where you're going.
If you use, ESNI or DOH, then even then their ISP won't be able to do it. But again, they're counting on the average person not being able to use such technologies and not use them as not widely spread. Like I use DOH just because I use it, I know how to use it, and I value my privacy. But your average worker on a presidential campaign, your average political dissident, you would hope they might be a bit more trained, but probably not.
Yeah, and I wrote an article a month or 3 back on the use of standard VPN tools, and they think that is protecting all of the information that's there. And I'm like, all that's doing is moving your neighborhood from one neighborhood to the other. And it's one thing if you're trying to leave said country or make you look like you're coming from another country. But I was like, when you land in that new neighborhood where that other side of that VPN, it's not protecting your data from everyone. So it's not providing all. So if you are a news reporter, if you're a journalist that's going out to, it's not providing the level of protection that you might think it is. So just know what those use cases are.
You're looking very much like a very rugged, dependable CISO / lumberjack. Like the brown, remember the brown guy?
Man.
Brawny man, I think.
Got that brawny man look
You
going
got
on.
that vibe today, buddy.
But I knocked half the fuzz off, so losing some.
Looks
of that.
clean though. I know what the next video or the. I asked Grok to create an image today. I know what that's gonna look like today. I know that's gonna be on Monday.
Yeah, it's also important to note that just these telecoms were hacked using a mechanism that was set up based off the Patriot Act for lawful intercepts. So if the FBI goes in and says, I need a list of conversations between then and this foreign actor, they can pull it. So that's what Salt Typhoon is going after, this lawful intercept, to just unlawfully intercept that communication. And it's only voice and text message. So if you use iMessage or use Signal or use WhatsApp, something that has native encryption on it, they're completely blind to it, which is always the recommendation, to always use encrypted comms. And funny enough, I think it was CISA. It might have been CISA, one of our agencies, that said the recommendation to mitigate this threat from Salt Typhoon is to use Microsoft Teams. They said Microsoft Teams is one of their trusted communication applications. So as awful as it is approved by our CISA for a mitigation against this Salt Typhoon hacking.
Zen is the only way that's going to save us all. You got to start doing the Zen packs, buddy.
Use the one that Tucker Carlson started.
What's that?
I don't know. I have to look it up. I remember there's a story a while ago where I forgot that Tucker Carlson used to use a lot of Zen, and then he got into a beef with them, and he's like, well, I'm going to start my own company. And then he actually did it.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, I thought it was cool, and then I was just like, I don't know if I even notice anything here other than a minty mouth, which is kind of nice. So
Minty. I'm sure somebody
Yes.
appreciates that.
Just you. And the brownie
Right.
man. Brawny.
Since we said Minty for our second topic, we're following up on a story we did 2 weeks ago about a cyber attack on a UK NHS vendor. Should I spell it out, Brian? NHS stands for National Health System, service, that processed blood work for them, causing a shortage of O-type blood and a delay in care because blood typing and testing information was not made immediately available. Well, it turns out after an investigation and report that at least one person has died as a result of that cyber attack and severely injured 2 other patients. Hundreds are also believed to be injured as well because of the delay in blood testing information, which led to a delay in care. We've heard other stories of hospitals being shut down and patients had to be routed to other emergency rooms, often further away, resulting in death. But this is the first time a death has been attributed to a ransomware attack when a patient was not already en route.
Sorry if somebody's at my front door. Go ahead and
Now,
go,
see,
Ben.
This is interesting because this took me back to the early days of when COVID started in 2020, where you started to see some ransomware code of conducts, where ransomware gangs, ransomware as a service, RAS service. I spelled it out. You're welcome, Brian. But you see like, Revil or REvil and everything, where they would say that you were not allowed to target critical infrastructure. You're not allowed to target schools, and you're not allowed to target healthcare entities or healthcare organizations. And we saw like the ransomware group Maze in 2020 that said if anybody was targeted them, they would give away the decryption keys for free. You saw Conti, the ransomware group Conti, hacking group Conti, would steer their affiliates away from going after healthcare related entities. It doesn't mean it's never happened. Doesn't mean that their affiliates always adhere to it. But in this case, we're starting to see where a healthcare organization was attacked, was impacted, and that key was not given as well. So, it saddens me to see articles like this.
Do you think
Even
Change
criminals
Healthcare
have
was
standards.
like, hey guys, you said you weren't going to attack me. Just paid $20 million.
Yeah.
And then they absconded with it too. They screwed the affiliate.
Yes.
Shows you what type of
Cash is king.
company they are. Yeah.
That's at some point in time that dollar amount will get you.
Got to rug pull them.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, I could sit here and say, it hurts my heart to see this. So it hurts my heart. Yes, I have a heart, Brian, but it hurts my heart for two reasons here. Number one, because people, the customers, the consumers, or in this case, the patients were impacted. The fact is, bad people exist in this world. It's up to the good people. It's up to the three of us. It's up to our industry. Those of us who have stepped up willingly to minimize, prevent bad people from being successful. And that's why we're on these types of, this podcast exists, is to bring awareness, to educate, yes, to entertain, to educate, but to bring these things to people's attention so that maybe in the future, it's not going to happen again. Because the second thing that saddens me, I said too, is this didn't need to happen. If resiliency was in place, and I'm not saying that we can make things and build a program, because I've built programs before. I can't ever guarantee that nothing bad is going to happen. But if resiliency was in place, if they had invested in that for the cyber protection perspective, taking a look and reading through this, they're unavailable of the system. Therefore, they had to go through all the OTIP because the universal donor, all of it. If they had other redundancies in place, I promise you, redundancy was in place for the storage of that blood. Because that is what was seen as valuable. That is what they saw as the commodity that needed to be protected. Not the network. Don't invest in the network. They provide healthcare. They provide a service to the organization. But organizations still don't see themselves as digital organizations. Therefore, they don't invest as much as they ought to invest. This was likely preventable if they had invested in the right things. Now you sit there and say, what's the chances of us being targeted? What's the chances of this? Every dollar that gets invested in cyber does not get invested in patient care. I get that. I understand that. You've got to weigh the needs, but also making sure you're investing in the right places so this doesn't happen again. How many people need to be impacted before these organizations, these hospitals, these care units invest in the protection of their infrastructure to make this a thing of the past to where this can't happen again? I'm not condoning it. I'm not putting the hospital fully at fault. Threat actors attack them. It's the bad actors' fault. Yet it might have been preventable had they done a proper risk analysis, seeing, should we be investing over here? I just know so many people who have worked in healthcare saying they can't put the basic controls in place. If it slows down the care, if it slows down the doctor by 3 seconds, every time that doctor has to put that multi-factor in place, it slows down that care to the patient. But was that okay? Just like if you go in a hospital, you cannot make it in the NICU without going through how many physical doors. That slows that doctor down as well, but it's seen as worth it because of the risk if they don't do it. When are we going to start seeing the digital risks and putting the controls in place to prevent these types of incidents in the future? And I'll get off my soapbox and let Brian talk for a minute.
I mean, you raise a good question. It's almost like it needs to be mandated. I'm not too sure if I want the government mucking in there, but maybe at a board level, right? Where it's just like, we have to do something and there should be no exceptions to it, period.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, like I was just with a CISO summit for healthcare, and the partner there was saying, like, if your resiliency plan is backup, you're cooked. Like, he's like, you're screwed. Like, the amount of money you're going to lose on that just isn't good enough. They'll attack the backups. You need to have a warm standby. You need to be able to have that separation to be able to get, the business up and running quickly. And, when they say like, oh yeah, we have a backup, he's like, it's going to take weeks, right, to restore that. And you just have the data. Like, you still have to figure out everything else. Like,
you have to procure the hardware, set up the networks, and that doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah. And if your backup is stored in Iron Mountain, And now you're going to say, I'm going to overnight this. Now you're relying on Iron Mountain to ship it. Now you're relying on, say, FedEx to deliver it. Now you're relying on all of these things. Now you get it physically in your hand. What systems do I have to restore? To what point do I need to rebuild my ERP that I can now restore this data, that I now can get back to it? And have we assured that our system, our network, if you will, is clean of any malware, that we feel comfortable and confident that we can start restoring here?
This goes back
all those
to our
things.
first story of Salt Typhoon, of have we fully evicted them? And a lot of very smart people, a lot of very smart people say that we have not fully evicted Salt Typhoon, even in like the companies that we do know, like AT&T, Verizon, all these other ISPs that have been hit. Have we fully evicted them? We don't know. The eviction problem is really, really hard. And same goes for healthcare. You restore from backup. All right, well, we were compromised 3 months ago and they were sitting in our network. Did we just restore a bad backup and we just put them back in our network?
Here, my little plea, hear me out on this one. Like, corporations don't have an unlimited budget when it comes to securing stuff. And I just need these threat actors like Salt Typhoon to get off their asses, work a little bit harder. I need you guys doing more stuff out there. I sell security product. God, put the fear of God in everyone. Let's open up these pocketbooks. Just kidding.
Well, I mean, honestly, it's if things aren't happening, never let an incident go to waste. Well, I should be able to learn by what's happening to, I'm going to pick on Glenn because he's not here. But when something bad happens to Glenn, the three of us, this just happened to somebody that we know, it becomes a little bit more real.
Yeah.
Therefore, we take action. We do something about it. It's not just in theory. It happened to somebody somewhere in the world. So when it happens to somebody that you know, it takes on a different level of reality. So who needs to be hit? What needs to be hit? Does it have to happen to me? Or does it have to happen to somebody that I know for my organization now to take these threats seriously?
I was working with a fairly large health organization here in California, and they have a big data center up in Northern California, like north of California, of San Francisco. And about 4 years ago, we had that very large fire in Paradise, California, where that city just got burned off the map. There's a very big fire up there. And this healthcare company had a data center in that region, and it got a little too close for their comfort. And it was like a wake-up call for them that said, if that fire had moved towards that direction and it took out our data center, we would have been in big, big trouble. So what they did was they found the money. This is a nonprofit organization. They found the money, built an entire replicated data center a couple states over, just in case the one in California gets wiped off the map. So for like a physical risk, like a fire, they instantly found the money for that just because they had a close call. But for like cyber risk, you could equally have been taken out by any number of cyber attack methods too.
Well, that's the thing is at previous organization that I've had the privilege of, serving in that CISO role. It's some of the principal risks to your organization. What are the events that put us out of business? And those are the ones that you want to mitigate. Those are the ones you want to minimize. Those are the ones you properly want to manage, if you will. Cyber is generally one of those things. If we get hit, it's not just taking us, it's losing our data, it's reputation, it's all of those different types of things that are there. You can't stick your head in the sand and think it's not going to happen. And if your CISO's there with the rest of the executive team and is not preaching not mentioning these things, not using that influence, not talking about it, truly is when we get hit. And all of us sit here and talk about minimizing the blast radius, minimizing the impact, minimizing all of that. I can minimize till the end of the world. But the fact is we can't prevent every time or every instance and everything. Something is going to happen at some point. So how do I minimize that? But we need to be talking at the top echelons of all of these organizations and preparing them for the time when it does happen. It's going to happen physically. A storm's going to happen. An earthquake's going to happen. A tornado, a hurricane, something, tsunami, depends on where you're at. But from a digital perspective, you will be impacted.
So you're in the CISO group chat. Like, what's it like? Have you ever seen someone that's like, you know, a CISO that's kind of, I would say, more or less on the fence? Like, he's like, yeah, whatever. I got insurance. That's fine. And then they get their cheeks clapped and they're like, become the biggest advocate for zero trust ever.
Well, unfortunately, yes. And at that point, it's like, did they learn their lesson, or did they learn their lesson for their next role? Do they feel, does their board feel that they were adequate? Did they respond well, or were they part of the, I've never really had this happen before. I've always had these controls in place. It served me well. And then all of a sudden, do they feel that they got caught with their pants down? And now they're the biggest advocate of, we do. Call Brian up. Brian, I remember I told you that I really didn't need you. Well, I need you now. And how quickly can you come in?
Feels good to be wanted, I tell you.
For third topic, I thought about Brian when I read this, and it's good to have him on to get his take. A woman in Sydney, that's a city in Australia, by the way, for our listeners, has been
there.
Arrested for a series of cyber attacks against Western Sydney University. An unnamed 27-year-old woman was arrested on various hacking crimes, but her journey and how she got there is what reminded me of young Brian. This one first hacked into the Western Sydney University computer system to get discounted parking. And, I can relate to that. The prices colleges and universities charge on top of everything else just to park for the privilege of learning there is absurd. Once she got a taste of that, it wasn't enough, and she allegedly started hacking to change her grades.
Hell yeah.
Not stopping there and escalating even further, she then stole confidential student information and attempted to extort the school for money, or else she would release the student data on the dark web. Now,
not cool.
Is hacking a gateway drug?
I feel like, she was doing some things that, you're right. I mean, colleges, the costs have gone up extraordinary just so they can have fresh paint and green grass everywhere. I don't know if that's the thing going on in Sydney as well. I'm on board. Like the discounted parking, victimless crime, the changing the grades, victimless crime, stealing some stuff and putting it on the dark web. That's pretty messed up. I don't think I'd get behind that. That's where she dropped the ball. And she should have covered her tracks. She should have got busted for trying to extort people for money, not all the other paper trail that she has.
Once they started looking into that, they're like, a few dollars lost in parking, not a big deal. Grades changing for one student, not a big deal. But yeah, that what probably got their attention was this extortion attempt.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, positive. We're seeing that hacking isn't just a male sport, not just done by guys. So we are seeing that. Was she originally just playing around? The art of the possible. Hacking is not bad. That's why we say cyber criminals. That's why we say attackers. That's why we don't generally use the word hackers. Hackers are there because hacking is all of us have hacked in the past, but we're trying to learn. We're trying to figure out. We're trying to find it before the bad threat actors find it. So hacking isn't bad, but it's like Brian said. It's the criminal aspect. It's changing the things. It's doing the things that are wrong. That's where she took the wrong turn. Figuring out how to get into the system to get, unauthorized discounted parking. All right. I get it. It's absurd getting there, but then it's like, okay, that was that. Ooh, I could do this. I have power, and I was able to get away with it. I was able to get discounted parking. What else can I get away with? It's that first hit is free mentality. And now that I got away with this, what else can I do in this system? What information can I get? And, now I can start holding some of this stuff for ransom. Somebody's going to pay me. I've read other stories that are out there. So is this a little Me Too type scenario of, now I've heard others do this. Now I can try to do the same.
It's like that dopamine hit. Like, does it, gets away with it,
Yes.
gets that dopamine hit, and then has to keep going further and further to get that same hit.
Yeah, you're going exactly where I was going, because I'm not saying that I'm an avid listener to true crime podcasts, because all I listen to is PEBCAK. I don't listen to these others. Maybe Brian does, but Brian was telling me, yes, Brian and Glenn were telling me that they were listening to a true crime podcast with some retired FBI agents. And these retired FBI agents were saying that it really is the repeat offenses of those who are bank robbers. And the bank robbers will rob the bank once, and they get that adrenaline, that dopamine hit, that adrenaline rush, and easy access to funds. And they did it once, and they got away with it. Now, when those funds run out, or their dopamine is all gone, do they do it again? And then they realize that it's just for the thrill, and they keep going and they keep doing it. And eventually that's why they're going to get caught. Is this what she ran into? This unnamed individual of went in there, got the parking ticket, got the discounted parking, if you will. But, ooh, this was fun. What else can I do?
So you just admitted that you were hacking. We've all done hacking, and I have shared my information. So you need to share yours, and I don't want to hear about the damn vulnerable web app. And Chris, are you an alleged hacker as well?
It depends how you define hacking. I mean, I've done things like I've gotten curious and I've tested things. Like there's, web, I can't remember. I think it's called like a web URL enumeration attack. I remember I subscribed to some service, and to like pull the receipt down or to pull an image down, it says in the URL it says image ID equals, and then it was like an 8-digit number. And I would just change that number to a random number, and it worked. Like you could pull other people's receipts or data just by changing the number in the URL. So I've done that. If you can qualify that as quote hacking.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, red team testing. Have you ever run Kali Linux? Have you ever done anything like that? I mean, you're authorized. I have the get out of jail free cards where you have you're allowed to run password attacks, to try cracking passwords as you're doing audits or assessments against your own organization, or if you're being brought in, little things like that.
So I ran the original Kali Linux, which was called Flak. And then I was also doing rainbow tables. You guys remember those?
Yeah, I remember
rainbow tables. Yes,
and it's backtrack.
It wasn't that much fun, right? But you could do it. When I used to own the network,
key and enable, all those tools.
Back Orifice, that was a good one.
That was the one you spread on. Was it Kazaa? You would call it password cracker.
No, that was Sub 7. Yeah, Sub 7. Yeah.
The good old days of like torpedoing the family computer because you thought you were downloading a Linkin Park MP3.
For real. Searching for tax files on Kazaa.tax. Yeah. For TurboTax.
So what'd you say? Brian, you said that Kali Linux. What was the original name?
Flak. PHLAK. The Personal Hackers Linux Assault Kit is what it was called.
I used it when it was like Wapix or something, but okay. See, you learn something new each day.
Oh, we should ask ChatGPT what came first.
I don't know.
No
I don't know
idea.
if this qualifies as hacking, but it was something I read about where when you use those peer-to-peer file transfer services like Kazaa, where you could transfer any kind of file types, you could search for any file with the prefix DSC, which was a very common
image
file type for digital camera photos when digital cameras were a thing and people weren't using iPhones. And because people, when you would sign up for Kazaa and you would start sharing. It just says, oh, do you want to share my documents folder? Yes. And that's the default setting, and everyone would do that. So you would steal other people's digital camera images. And let's just say there was a lot of homemade adult content that was shared, probably unknowingly that way.
Unknowingly, yeah.
Like how to make dinner.
Yeah. Tutorial. This is how you make a chicken cacciatore.
This is how you pay your bills. I love those days. Oh. By the way, FLAC came out in 2003. WAPix came out in 2004. So, again, I'm the OG. You're just the wannabe.
What? And then it was Backtrack in like 2010. So,
yeah,
right?
The Backtrack.
No, oh, God.
Kelly. Yep.
Yeah.
And then the other thing related to the URL enumeration attack was when a new file transfer service, like something like an Imager, went up, and they would also say that like image ID equals some 6-digit number, because like Imager now it's like random. It's like a password. It's 8 characters, uppercase, lowercase, numbers. But back in the day, it was just like a 6 or 8-digit number, and you could enumerate that. And let's just say if you found an image hosting site like that, there was a lot of, I would call, illegal content that you would be able to find by just changing that number. So they definitely wanted to fix, number one, not hosting illegal content anymore. Number two, making it harder to enumerate and guess what the image IDs were.
Yeah, I think the Imager guy did like a Ask Me Anything on Reddit, because I think that's what made Imager take off, right?
Yeah.
And like
yeah,
he was talking about the economies of scale, but specifically around illegal content. Was this like almost put him out of business, I believe.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised that any kind of service is going to be abused. I'm sure there's illegal content on Dropbox and Box and OneDrive and iCloud, but just having it out there and being accessible to unauthorized people just by changing the number just puts it a lot more out there. All right, for our last topic, and it'll be a rotating topic every week. This week, we're going to talk about our lovely nation's birthday. So happy 249th birthday, America. You don't look a day over 100. What are some 4th of July traditions that you celebrate or observe?
I try to stay inside all day and watch TV. I don't want to be, it's too hot in Arizona to do anything. I don't understand the whole, like, go to a parking lot, sweat your taint off, and then watch fireworks for 30 minutes. Like, no, thank you.
Have a pool party or something.
It's still too hot even for a pool. At least in Arizona.
That's the thing. I mean, I don't want to see Brian in a bathing suit.
Oh, I'll send you one right now. That doesn't sound like a party to me. I'll send it to you right now.
Being in Central North Carolina, I say that it's quite hot, it's quite muggy, and spending the day outside could that's a little warm too. So we don't get out there, grill some burgers, some hot dogs, things like that, hang out with the family, extended family as well. That's about the extent of our traditions as well. I don't go out to parks. I don't, maybe in the past we have, but it's just so hot.
Well, we knew it was hot there.
Right. I guess that's the difference between. So we have Arizona, we have Central North Carolina, and if Glenn were on, he's in, I don't know if it's called, not really Central Valley, but it's quite warm where Glenn lives. Me, I'm on the coast, and I would say it's a 50-50 chance usually every year if it's going to be cloudy and foggy, or if it's going to be clear and maybe hot, maybe not. Because the joke was when I lived in San Francisco was, are you going to go to the fireworks? Like, why would I go to the fireworks? I'm just going to see some colored clouds just light up, because it was always cloudy here on the 4th of July. But to this year, it looks like it's going to be clear. Today, it's going to be a high of a whopping 63 degrees here in lovely Northern California. So not quite as much of a problem as it is where you two gentlemen live. But yeah, we usually have the family over, we do the barbecue, watch the fireworks on TV. We did the in-person fireworks maybe a couple of times, but it just got too crowded. This is pre-pandemic, but even then, it just got way too crowded. It was really hard to park, and there's just too many people. So we're like, we're just gonna watch it on TV. And then now that we live in a city where it's legal to light off the what they call quote safe and sane fireworks, then we just do that in the driveway.
Nice.
I used to have like a Traxxas remote control like truck, like the E-Revo, I think is the name of it. Thing was fast. We used to like duct tape the fountain firework to the back of it and then drive it up and down the neighborhood. Yeah, that was actually kind of cool. I'll see if I can find the video. Whatever. It was good times. But watching fireworks on TV sounds like the least thing I'd want to do. I'm surprised you're not like trying to eat 56 hot dogs. I know how much you love the glizzies.
Yeah, give Joey Chestnut a run for his money.
Yeah. Joey Chestnut.
What I thought was funny, since you mentioned attaching fireworks to a moving vehicle, I've seen
remote control car, buddy.
It's still it's still the vehicle. It's still moving.
Okay,
Come on.
All right.
There's a video. I think it was in Brazil. Somebody had duct taped I think it was a Roman candle onto a drone because there's like somebody in the neighborhood was having a really loud party and he would refuse to shut it down and the guy couldn't sleep, so he just duct taped this Roman candle to the drone, flew it over there, just lit it off, and it just started firing into the crowd. I'm sure it's not legal, but it's hilarious to watch. And then everyone just scatters from that.
So definitely not legal or Roman candles, but I did have some. I'm not gonna say when. And like the first time I had them, like if I'm like it's a stick, right? I'm like if I light it from the wick, does it mean it shoots it out this way, or does it go the other? Like I wasn't too sure, so I kind of held it out like in the road like this. And I had a very loose grip. And so it shot out the same end the wig was, and it hit the neighbor's house, and then I dropped it, and like 8 more were just being blasted across the street. And then the neighbors came out. They're like, what's going on? I'm like, I'm so sorry.
Someone threw it out the window and drove away. He went that way.
I thought I had this dialed in, but apparently I did not.
Yeah, too many firework fail videos, which goes back to my original comment of the show is Actually, I know for a fact that July 3rd, 2025 is going to be the last day somebody in America still has 10 fingers. Because inevitably something's going to happen. I got firefighter buddies, and he's like, yeah, we're all on duty that day. We're out in full force because it's the busiest day of the year for them.
Not me. Keeping my fingers.
Yeah, that would be ideal. I'll make some videos. I'll send it to you guys. You guys don't shoot any out? I guess Arizona's probably too dry, right? They're probably not legal there.
Yeah, I mean, we only have the fountain fireworks, but everyone in the neighborhood has got the shells. Is that what they called? Yeah.
The ones that shoot up and explode.
Yeah. I had a buddy of mine, like a shell actually went through the wall of his house and into the same room as his 9-month-old baby. He wanted to, he was ready to kill somebody, man. And he looked like he could. So, Ben, Chris, did we talk about this yet? The tattoo HOG hog?
No, we have not talked about the tattoo.
I thought it was an acronym for the Hangover Gang, and I was talking to a guy at the gym who made me look tiny, like you, Chris, like a tiny person.
I know, right? That's hard to do.
and I'm sure that Ben knows what hog really is. So, anyways, I was like, "Yeah, tell me about your tattoo." He's like, "Oh, I'm a U.S. Marine sniper. It's like a hunter gunman." And then started taking in some of the other tattoos. I'm like, "This dude has seen some shit." Like legit, like he's like I'm like I just want to be this guy's friend just so I can hear about all the crazy things he's done. Anyways, have you ever heard of that, Ben? The hog?
I have.
Yeah.
I've heard of the hog's
gunman.
tooth. You know what a hog's tooth is?
No.
The hog's tooth is when I don't know if it's unique to snipers, but it's basically like if you're a sniper and you eliminate an enemy threat that is a direct threat to you, like someone's pointing a gun at you, you take the bullet that was in their chamber that was meant for you, and then you wear it around your neck, and it's called your hog's tooth. It's like, this bullet was meant for me, but I took him out first.
Yep. Well, and that's sort of that hog is, I mean, I believe the acronym actually is the hunter of gunmen. Yeah. So you're hunting the other hunters, you're hunter. Yeah. So, those are some really, really bad people. Or, good to have, when they're on your side.
Yeah, I think the rite of passage is you're a pig first, right? Professional, instructed gunman. And then once you get your kill, or you're, I guess, qualified sniper, then you're the hunter of gunmen. But you have to be given the hog tooth, which is what Chris kind of alluded to.
Yeah.
Wild.
Wild hogs.
Wild hogs. Don't mess with them. You see that too, run the other way.
Yes. Yeah, good luck running.
What an amazing
cover
acronym, though. It's like, you know what I mean? Like, that's... Heck, I wouldn't be being called a hog anyways, right? So,
yeah.
Better than, I don't know, that or gorilla. That'd be another good one.
Or FNG.
Freaking new guy?
Yeah.
Oh, you're the FNG. Actually, Ben is the FNG of the group.
We continue to get great comments about our dad joke of the week. Dad joke of the week. This week, our guest Ben is up.
All right, I got two for you. So, one of them sure to be a hit. Got to get good comments here. All right, first one. Why do programmers prefer to use dark mode?
Why is that?
Because light attracts bugs.
Oh, jeez.
You're welcome. You like that one.
You.
All right. And then, going back to story number 3, I had to throw in a second one here. But why did the guy break up with his hacker girlfriend?
Why?
Because he found her to be too cryptic.
Okay. Should have been one done, buddy.
All right, to wrap things up, the absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. We're talking to you, ISPX. A person died as a result of a cyber attack against the NHS. Hacking can be a gateway drug. And happy birthday, America. That's all I have for this week. We hope you enjoyed this week's episode. You can find us on LinkedIn. Links will be in the description. Follow us on Instagram at PEBCAK Podcast. Thank you to all listeners and subscribers. Rate us 5 stars on iTunes Store and Spotify, and left us a review. We appreciate you all spreading the word to help grow the show. The best way to find us is to search for the PEBCAK Podcast in your favorite podcast listening app. My co-host Brian Deach and our guest Ben Coral. I'm Chris Louie. Thanks for listening. We'll see you all next weekend. As always, have a nice day.
Bye, Felicia. Love you, Glenn.
Have a nice day.